Ian Botham, PR seems to be an important part of public people's lives these days, even sportsmen. I wonder, do you do a programme like this to give cricket publicity or to give yourself publicity as an individual?
I think the easiest way to answer that is at the end. Because if they eat me alive, then it hasn't done me any good, has it?
Mazia Rahman.
Why do you think that as a cricketer you've become wider known for your antics off the field rather than for your performance on the field?
Thanks to the British media. I don't ask for it. I think a lot of it personally is an intrusion, a total intrusion into my life. Because, for instance, I got on the plane this morning and I flew into the country, and the first thing I did was I picked up a paper and I see inside it, it says, intimate secrets of Fergie's marriage. Well, I personally couldn't care less about Fergie's marriage, and I hope they have a very nice and happy marriage. And that kind of journalism, to me, is just a joke.
Judith Milligan.
Why, when you complain so much about publicity, do you go out of your way to attract attention to yourself? Is it for financial gain?
Attract attention to myself? What, you mean be good at my sport?
Not just that, like as in when you were doing the charity walk and everything.
So it's wrong to try and help and save people's lives?
No, but surely it didn't do you any harm either.
Do you know, see, I think that's probably one of the problems in life at the moment. I'm very fortunate. I was given a talent and a gift. And if you go to a leukemia hospital, which I suggest you do, and you sit there and you see healthy children that look perfectly healthy, nothing physically wrong with them at all, and you're told that child's going to be dead in 48 hours, then I think that anything but seeking publicity. It also took 2.5 years to set up. I've been working for it for 12 years with leukemia, so it's hardly publicity.
Yes.
Don't you think it attracts bad publicity?
Yeah, at times, I suppose. And I think probably one of the reasons for that, or one of the most common reasons for that, is because at times I'm probably a little bit too honest for my own good.
I mean, you're got a very sort of boisterous personality. Then do you not feel that it's your own fault that you're attracting all this attention to yourself and gaining bad publicity?
Well, I don't think I've gained that much bad publicity, you see. I think, in actual fact, I think the media have done me a big favour in the last year because they've written so much tripe that people now have come to the conclusion, you know, people aren't stupid. I mean, if I was meant to have done all the things that the press have written about me, my brain would be pickled in a jar and my body would be in the National History Museum. So how I was meant to fit this all in with playing sport as well and travelling all around the world, it really does baffle me.
Lorna Ogilvie.
You complain about the press. However, hasn't your own immaturity and naivety in saying outrageous things made you fair game for the popular press?
Such as?
Well, you said that the Tessin County Cricket Board were old fogies dependent on pink gin for their survival.
Yeah, again, the media, you see, I went to a dues for a cricket club, indoor cricket school, in the inner city of Manchester, at Trafford Park, where there aren't many parks and places for kids to run around. They've built a complex there for indoor sports, cricket, tennis, mainly cricket. And it's a six-a-side competition they've started in the town. I went along there to raise money for the club by doing a dinner. I did it for my expenses only. I got there, the chairman, Murray Burney, who's also a member of the Lancashire Cricket Committee, got up and said that tonight is a fun night. We're going to have fun, and what is said here is not to be taken down and used. In other words, it's a private function. Now, if you think that the media then have a right to tape record it and then flog it for his personal gain to a newspaper, I think perhaps it's not perhaps my morals that are wrong and my immaturity. I think it's not Watergate again, is it?
But isn't that something that you've always got to be suspicious of? I mean, if you are a public figure and you've been a public figure for a long time, by this time people would probably expect that you'd have learnt that things like that are likely to happen and that you might be called upon to justify your comments that they were gin-swiddling dodderers or whatever. Yeah, but it was said in the context of a joke, in the sense that it was a joke at the time. The whole thing had been said, but the unfortunate thing is that when you put it down in black and white, it can look totally different, especially with a little bit of help from the editor.
You've expressed a lot of anger about the sacking of Joe Garner and Viv Richards. If you faced with the same situation earlier on in your career, would you have been so outspoken? Yeah, I think so. Mine, I think there again, it's a little bit, the Somerset situation, they turn around and they say that they can justify, on a cricketing sense, the sacking of one of the best bowlers in the world, probably one of the best bowlers of all time,
and certainly the best batsman in the world at the moment, with one player who's basically who bowls a little bit and bats. And the other two are proven in world cricket. Martin is a fine player. Don't get me wrong, I've just been with Martin now playing in a testimonial in Kuwait, and he's a fine cricketer. But I think in a cricketing sense, to say that sacking those two and replacing him with him is a good cricketing move.
Now, the chairman of your county says that the reason is that although the other cricketers are very great and acknowledged as very great cricketers, they don't pay much attention to young cricketers and they don't give much encouragement. But the new cricketer that's been signed, he thinks, will have a different attitude. That's what he said in the newsletter that's been circulated to all Somerset members.
Yeah, I think it might be interesting to see what letters are circulated then by Roy Kerslake and Bridget Langdon, which might be a little bit nearer the truth.
Alison Craig.
You as a member of the English cricket team get rather a lot of individual media attention. How does the rest of the team feel about this, and does it cause any animosity between you?
No animosity at all. I'll give you an example. There was a story about 3 or 4 of the lads when they were playing at Old Trafford. They went for a drink in a wine bar. And it was all over the back page of one of the tabloids. And England they won the game the following day, One Day International. And the headline went, hip, hip, hick, hick, rather, hooray. Right? And it went on, there was about 13 paras, of which 12 were about the lads being in a wine bar that night, all innuendo. And 1 para about the cricket. And I got a phone call from the lads and they said, hurry up and come back, will you, and take this rubbish away from us. So I don't think there's any animosity at all. And we've all, I think, in actual fact, the only animosity that I've ever experienced in this side has been created by outsiders.
Brian Gilmore.
What do you think of Fred Truman and Ray Illingworth after the comments he made about you?
Not a lot.
Do you still talk to them?
Not if I can help it.
Katrina Bovard.
Did Fred Truman ever apologise to you about his remark about your bowling after you'd broken his record?
We better perhaps fill in what the quote was. The quote was that Truman said in the Sunday People, didn't he, that Botham's been bowling rubbish for fully 10 years. I don't think he can even bowl a hoop down a hill.
Well, I mean, there's just no point in even making a comment on that, is there? I mean,
but did he apologise afterwards? Because you overtook his record soon after that, didn't you?
Well, Bob Willis went past him first. And Bob was written off by Fred Truman. Then I went past him, was written off. God, Fred must have been a great cricketer, mustn't he?
Do you think he says things like that because you're a young cricketer, or because he's disillusioned, or what would be the motivation of a great cricketer such as Truman, who's acknowledged as such, to attack other cricketers who've done a lot of good for the game?
I really don't know, because I feel that the easiest thing in the world is to sit back and knock. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is sit back and look for the good things. I don't know, I actually believe a lot of it is possibly jealousy. I really do.
John Isles.
You've made your views on the gutter press very clear, so what did you write for The Sun, possibly the worst of a bad bunch?
I think if you read everything that I've ever written, it's far from knocking. In fact, I try and look for the good things and try and look to encourage younger players in the game.
But surely then, Mr. Botham, that you're writing for the same newspaper which has possibly hounded you the most and has disturbed yourself and your family the most. Do you not feel any...
No, it's a contradiction. The Sun's certainly not hounded me anywhere near some of the Sunday papers and other tabloids. It doesn't work like that. Why would the Sun hound someone that they're paying? It's more likely to come from one of their rivals. And I think if you look through it, that would be the fact.
But the Sun does tend to hound other people in the same way that much of the tabloid press does. So even if they're not hounding you as an individual, they're still going for the same royal stories, for example, that you've earlier deplored in this programme. So I wonder, do you not feel that you have to take any responsibility for writing for a newspaper, the views of which a lot of people find very distasteful, or the methods specifically are distasteful?
Well, I've got points of view to make, and I couldn't do it for the Times because I couldn't spell the words.
But what about the editorial content? People must ask you about that.
Well, I think it comes down to the fact at the end of the day that if you've got something to say, it makes more sense that the paper that has a circulation of 5 million, that you say it in there, than it does if you say it in a paper that has a circulation of 500,000.
And as a columnist, do you have any effect? Could you phone up the editor, for example, and say, that story that you did in the Royal Family, I think it's pretty obnoxious, or another sportsman, I think it's obnoxious, I'll withdraw my column?
I might write something during the week to say that I don't agree with it. And the paper has no objections to that.
Don't you think it's a very sexist remark to say that changing nappies is women's work?
No, I think it is.
How can you justify that, though? Because men are just as...
Well, I wouldn't ask my wife to go out and face Michael Holding.
Yes.
Mr. Botham, if changing nappies is women's work, then what would you term as a man's work?
Well, I'm talking about myself. If you want to go and change nappies, fine, that's up to you. I personally don't, and I don't. It's just not my cup of tea. I can't be everywhere.
Do you not think the man must help with the baby as much as the woman if
Of
he
course
has
I
something
do.
to do with creating that baby?
Of course I help.
Well, do you help your wife?
Yeah, of course I do. When I'm at home, what do I do?
Well, why did you say that about changing nappies?
Because I don't change nappies. Because I was asked if I changed nappies, and I said no.
Yes.
Do you
Do you want me to lie?
Do you think then that the men should only do the clean jobs when bringing up a baby? Said you want to change
I think you're
nappies,
missing the
why
whole
not?
context, love. 10 months of the year I spent on the road, in hotels, in airplanes, in coaches, and the world. And if you want to send me the nappies to the post, I'll wash them and send them back.
Yes.
If it's only you personally that won't change nappies, why do you classify this as women's work?
I didn't. I was asked, do I change nappies? And I said no. And they said, who does? I said, well, my wife does. Who else do you expect to do it? My son actually changes them. Well, there's no problems there.
So you don't
I don't know.
it's women's work?
Not particularly. If you wanted, as I said, if you want to change nappies, change nappies. It's a free world. That's what my father thought in the Second World War.
Is your wife satisfied with your attitude to child rearing, or do you think that she resents your apparent immersion in your own sport?
That sport is my living.
And she can accept that?
Well, would you want me to go to the office at 9 o'clock and come back at 5?
No,
Look, if you're given... to me, I'm an entertainer. My job is... People pay money to come through to watch me play cricket. That is flattering anyway, that people come through and do that. But if you can entertain them and give them value for money, surely you're making a contribution to society, because people aren't, not all people are as lucky or as fortunate to have that talent. And I'm aware of that, and I'm very, very pleased that God or whoever gave me that talent. But the thing is that some people aren't that fortunate, and they have perhaps jobs that, if without their release of going to their sport at the weekend or during the week, perhaps we are contributing to something to society.
Judith Milligan.
How can you say you respect anti-blood sport campaigners when to criticise them you use the phrase talking out the backside?
Excuse me. I said I respect them. No, I said everyone's entitled to their opinion.
Yes, I think you said, did you not, though, that you respected their beliefs, you respected their integrity, that they do genuinely believe what they campaign for?
No, I don't know where you got that from. No, I said that. No, I totally disagree, because I think most anti-blood people are townies, people who live in cities. And people don't realise is, for instance, deer in this country. There are more in this country now than there were at the days of the King Henry VIII. Fact. Why? You drive out in the country, you see pheasant, you see partridge. Why? Because syndicates put them down.
Yes.
Don't you think that if, as a force, nature has seen fit to provide such animals, then nature will also find a way of keeping them in check? Don't you think that the fact that you go out and kill them is perhaps morally unjust?
Well, 2 winters ago, I came up to do some culling up in northern Scotland, the deer. Came up and the estate had gone into liquidation. So they told us that we couldn't cull the deer, which we thought was sad and also, more than that, very cruel. Because we went up there with a helicopter about 4 days later, by which time, what happens in nature, and it's not balanced out at all, is that where the food was, where they could airlift food into the beasts up on the hill, they've dropped the beasts, so naturally the strongest beasts come around, the stags. The dead ones were the young calves and the old and sick. If you think that's, if you think it's
I'm
cruel.
not saying it's particularly pleasant, Mr. Botham. I'm saying that that's the way that things is. That's the way that nature operates.
No, it's not.
And that's the way. The reason, perhaps, that human beings are in a position where they have guns to kill other things
Do you eat meat?
is because thousands of years ago human beings developed into a position where they could do
Do
that.
you eat meat?
Yes, I do.
Well, then I suggest you go and see how meat is reared. Then tell me if we're cruel going out in the fields. At least those birds live a life in the country. They live their normal life. They're not brought up inside a battery pen. Or reared or fattened up cows are not fattened up quickly so you can get them on the market
Well, absolutely, but you're wearing leather shoes, you know, Mr. Botham. I mean, the question goes for both of us, surely.
No, I'm saying I do eat meat. And I also, by choice, I have meat that is not... I do not buy chickens that come from batteries, or very rarely, and not aware of it, maybe I do. By choice, I get chickens that are killed on the farm, and I also get meat that is killed and reared naturally.
Front row.
Do you think it's right that people kill in blood sports for their own enjoyment?
Most people that go out shooting, have you put a lot back in the sense that they put down maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 10,000 birds every season. Now, I'm afraid with farming in this country and all the hedgerows being ripped up, you wouldn't see any of those at all now if it wasn't for those syndicates putting them down.
Presumably the argument is, though, that a lot of the people who go out hunting don't go out hunting because they're concerned, for example, about the lives that the animals are leading, but they go out hunting because they enjoy the excitement and the chase and the kill, ultimately.
Well, I'm sure.
And perhaps the issue is, isn't that a bit primitive in today's society, that people can still get a kick out of killing creatures?
Well, I think there's a lot worse things in society than that. And I also believe that most people who go out are genuine country people. I can only speak for myself. I don't get any, it's no big thrill. I don't wake up in the morning and think, oh, how many am I going to kill today? Just notch him up on the side of my gun. Far from it. I go out because I walk out on the hill, I go out on my own, I take my son or whatever, and I go out and I shoot. And if I go out on the hill shooting the deer, I only take out what's got to be taken out.
But you get a lot of opposition, don't you, from people who are opposed to your views, for example, amongst the anti-blood sports campaigners?
Well, fine, everyone's entitled to their opinion. I'm just saying that I've been on a hill and I've had to chase a stag that's got a 9-inch crossbow bolt through its belly for 2 days. That doesn't happen when I go out with the gun. That's for the people that poach. That's the kids who go out for kicks and fire them. I'm totally against that. If I caught them, I think they should be severely treated. They'll probably get a fine.
Brian Gilmore.
Why did you take legal action against the Mail on Sunday over its allegations that you'd taken drugs when you later admitted taking them?
No, I didn't. I didn't admit to taking cocaine.
You had an article...
I didn't admit to taking cocaine.
You admitted, though, that you smoked pot, I believe.
I smoked marijuana, I admitted I smoked marijuana.
On BBC Breakfast.
The allegations, if you read the Mail on Sunday, you'll find the allegations don't refer to that.
As someone who is always in the public eye, promoting health, fitness and sport, why did you turn to drugs that destroy health?
I'm not saying it's right or wrong. All I'm saying to you is it's something that happened in my life.
Front row.
You have said that you think that people should make their own choices about drugs. Then
No, I didn't say that. No, I don't. I think a heroin dealer should be shot.
Yeah, but I mean soft drugs, like the kind of things you're talking about, marijuana and that, surely that has some influence in your younger fans, and that can lead to harder drugs.
I'm not saying it should do it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying it's something that happened to me. And I'm saying that I'm probably a better person for that experience, because I've now seen what heroin and other things can do, because I've seen the people associated with that.
Yes.
How long did you take marijuana before you seen what heroin and that could do?
I saw what heroin could do when I was very young in London. When I first turned professional, I saw a guy stretch it out of Piccadilly Circus dead. He would have been about 16.
Well, why do you start with soft drugs? I mean, why do you not condemn soft drugs as well when that's the whole beginning? That is where it all spouses from.
I'm not. Who said I didn't condemn them?
Well, have you not says just now that you did take marijuana? How long did you take marijuana for?
Well, dabbled in it a few times.
Over how long? Over 12 years? Whatever.
No, love, I said dabbled in over a few times. I don't know. I'm sorry, I didn't log it.
Well, in between them few times, did you never think that this is wrong? That this can lead on to something bigger?
I think probably at the time I felt that it was, at the time it didn't do me any harm. At the time I felt there was nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong. It's something that I think there'll always be arguments about marijuana. There's arguments today, there'll be arguments in years to come. The Young Liberals have just proposed that marijuana should be legalised in an event to stop and cut out corner dealers in drugs who give a kid some marijuana, and then they line it up with some heroin inside it. The next thing you know, you've got a kid chasing the dragon at 14 and addicted. If you cut out those people, I think the Young Liberals' idea, maybe there's a lot of sense in it.
Mazia Rahman.
You said that you want your children to make up their own minds about drugs. Would your comment be the same if one of your children turned out to be an addict?
Where do you get all this information about what I said?
That quote came from Woman magazine in July of this year.
No, you see, I wish you'd put it in the context that I say it. What I said was, I said that life is about, you learn, you live and learn. You know, some people don't like drink, some do. Some don't like fried food, some like grilled. I said that the thing is, you can't go out, if you go out the world and you say to your children from the word go, you can't do this, you can't do that. You mustn't do that, you mustn't do this. Do your tie up, do that up. Well, that kid is going to rebel. I certainly would have done. I'm sure most of you here would have done if you were told from the word go, you can't do this, you can't do that. That's wrong, that's right. Most kids of 8 or 9 are going to turn around and say, well, come on, that can't be, that's no good, let's go and try it.
Would you forbid them to take a hard drug?
I'd forbid them to take drugs full stop. What I'm saying to you is, I think what you've got to do is you've got to look at the problem. It's wider than that in society. You know, what people should be doing in this country now is getting hold of the guys who are smuggling in heroin and cocaine and things of this order that can be effectively be killers. And they shouldn't be just putting them in jail for a few years. They should be hanging them.
Well, as an individual, I mean, where do you draw the line between allowing children to make up their own mind because you're scared that authority might push them into something, and taking a more authoritarian stance and just simply saying, under no circumstances can you as my child or you as a child in my care, can you touch drugs of any kind?
I would simply say to the children, I would say to them, look, that can kill you.
Lorna Ogilvie.
You raise money for leukaemia victims. As a Thatcher supporter, how do you feel about the fact that her government has made cuts in the National Health Service?
As a Thatcher supporter, yeah, I believe in the Tory policy, in a lot of the Tory policies. I don't necessarily agree with cutting in health. I do believe, though, in free enterprise. And I do believe that if a guy gets off his backside and wants to go out and try and make something of his life, he should have that opportunity. And I think that, unfortunately, under the Labour Party, I might be wrong, but I feel that it'd be too easy for people to sit down and do nothing and get paid for it.
Mary Boyd.
Do you not think it would be so much better if Mrs Thatcher would put some of the money she uses in defence into research and therefore help us out before she destroys the world, try and save some what's in just now?
Well, I think at times, I personally feel that I feel that we should have defence. I feel that we should have weapons, because you've got to have something. You've got to have some kind of deterrent, because there's enough loonies in this world, the Gaddafis of this world, running around, who are quite more than happy to drop a bomb on you if they thought they could get away with it.
You're a supporter of Mrs Thatcher and fiercely anti-apartheid. What are your feelings on a recent stand against sanctions in South Africa?
I'm not sure I agree with her, but we're not all perfect, are we?
Yes.
Maybe we're not all perfect, but surely as the country's leader, she has a greater responsibility.
I think maybe, though, she is trying to look at it with an open mind, and some of the arguments you can see that sense. I mean, how many people would suffer in South Africa through it, and how many of those people would suffer because they're black in South Africa through it?
But the black leaders have said that their people are prepared to put up with that if it means a stopping to this terrible system.
Yeah, but can't you see that maybe leading to even warfare, bloodbaths? I think it could. I don't know.
The argument is there'll be a bloodbath.
There's going to be.
Without it.
I think there's going to be at some stage anyway. Mm-hmm. As I'm totally disagree with that. I mean, to me, if a man's black, green, yellow, and with blue spots, and I like the guy, I couldn't give a stuff. It doesn't matter where he comes from, because it's the colour of his skin. You know, the skin's how deep.
Well,
yes.
If you feel that, Mr. Botham, as I think most people do, then don't you feel that you should?
I don't think most people do, actually.
Well, I think certainly on the South African question, I think a large majority of people certainly feel that the apartheid system is evil. Don't you think that there comes a time where you must stand up and raise your hand and say, well, we object, and whether economic sanctions would lead to warfare or not, don't you think that it's time that Britain as a nation put its hand up and said, we object?
I have done.
What I'm trying to say is that obviously, as like you say, you just have said that, but as a country, Britain and West Germany are the only two countries in the world, more or less, who said we refuse to enter into what the rest of the world is doing. Don't you think that we are then not putting as a nation our hand up and saying that we object?
Does the nation agree with it?
Well, it certainly seems to be in polls. It certainly seems to be. It seems to be that the MPs are coming back from their constituencies, and even a large amount of Conservative MPs are saying, my personal feelings are this or that, but my constituents are writing me letters saying...
I think if the country thinks that, yes, they should.
And do you think that you could exert any pressure, for example, to make the government give the leadership to draw the country into a campaign for sanctions?
I'm a cricketer, not a politician. I mean, I have my
views. But you've spoken out a lot about this in public.
Of anti-apartheid, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I think that's a case of human rights, not a case of politics.
Mazia Rahman.
As a public figure who is against apartheid, don't you think it was a bit hypocritical of you to say the things you said about Pakistan, as these in themselves were quite hurtful remarks, were they?
When I open a hard-boiled egg and I go to eat it, and I take the first mouthful and I think, God, what's that? And then the second mouthful, there's half an embryo in it. I find that a little bit revolting.
Yeah, but don't you
and
think
I also had dysentery for 10 weeks.
Yeah.
So I think I was entitled to be a little bit upset.
Yeah, but don't you think by saying things like, oh, you wouldn't ever send your worst enemy there, or your
I didn't.
mother-in-law
I said, look,
your mother-in-law, wasn't it?
Yes, I said, excuse me, you must have a sense of humour somewhere in there, love. You know, if I say I send my mother-in-law for 2 weeks, all expenses paid, it's no different to what Les Dawson says every other Saturday on the television.
Yeah, but the remarks must have been pretty bad, seeing as you did get fined for them and you were suspended for it.
Well, I suggest that the people that... No, I wasn't suspended, I was fined. I suggest that the people that fined me, or maybe that the people that... I'm going to be careful here, I'll get fined again. No, I suggest that maybe people ought to just laugh a little bit more in this life.
Mary Boyd.
Because I think most of you here realise that was what context that was in. In actual fact, my mother-in-law had 2 offers from national papers to actually go out there for 2 weeks. And even she chickened out.
Mary
Mr.
Boyd.
Botham, Hollywood ignored you when you tried to become a film star. Do you think that maybe we should do that sometimes as well? And
again, this is the media. I did not. I went over because I work with Nike International, which is an American-based company. I went over there, and that was a good pun. I got a bit of advertising in there. No, I went over there to do that. That was the media saying where I was going.
But do you think that maybe sometimes we should sort of ignore your views sometimes as well and leave you to your views and leave us to ours without picking up on the things that you say? Do you think we put too much onto what you say?
I totally agree. I sincerely hope that you have your own opinions.
Why are you on the programme then, Mr. Botham?
I'm on this to argue with you.
And you, after all, the ones who've asked to speak to Mr. Botham, so you must be interested in his views somewhere along the line. Ian Botham, thank you very much indeed for being open to question.
My pleasure.